guys, we are over here at Creation Station and we are moving right along on part 3 of our beginner series for bath bomb makers. For those of you who have never made bath bombs before, I've already put out videos number 1 and 2, and we're just going to continue to expand upon that and build upon that. In video number 1, I showed you guys the different types of molds that you could use as far as spheres are concerned, because that's going to be a good beginning spot for those of you that have never made bath bombs before. A round sphere is probably going to be the easiest to try to conquer, and it's the most recognizable as far as bath bombs are concerned. When you mention a bath bomb to a consumer, immediately they're going to think of the round bath bomb. So I showed you guys how to use the aluminum round sphere, right? Then I showed you the plastic ones. Then I showed you the stainless steel ones. And then in the last video, we graduated to the 3D printed round spheres. So today we're going to move on from the round sphere. And so the next easiest to work with is going to be your donut mold. So we're going to be working with that today. Also, there's a couple of other changes that we are going to do. Remember, we're taking that original basic recipe that I gave you guys in video number 1, in part 1 of the series. Bare bones basic recipe for those of you that have never made bath bombs before. It's a really good recipe. It works out really well, produces a nice hard bath bomb. Then in video number 2, we went on to use the round sphere, like I said, in the 3D printed bath bomb mold. How are those bath bombs doing? We did the sore muscle bath bombs. How are they doing? Here they are. Pretty hard. This is what, a few days later? Maybe 3 days later? They're not crumbly, they're not powdery. And again, this is working off of that original recipe, which is the bare bones. I just want you guys to hear how hard that is. Now, I'm not slamming it. I'm not trying purposely to break it, obviously, but I want you guys to see that it's not powdery. You can see the marks now that I've dinged it up a little bit with the spoon from tapping, but that brushes right off. Anyways, it's not powdery. It's not soft, it's not crumbly, there's no cracks, there's no breaking, there's none of that going on. So that original recipe is really good. It's just bare bones, but it's a beginning point, and then we can build on that, right? So that was video number 1. Now in video number 2, we went ahead and we added a milk powder and a butter, right? And we switched around some of those percentages because we can't just have 100% in our formula and then start adding stuff without adjusting all of the other measurements, because now we're over 100% in our formula, and that's no bueno, right? So that was the last video. We added the milk powder and we subbed out a butter for the avocado oil. Now today, we're gonna make some more changes. In that original recipe and in part 2, we were using cornstarch, okay? We're getting rid of the cornstarch today. Not using that anymore. Instead, we're going to be subbing out that cornstarch for Kaolin Clay and cream of tartar, which is going to add, your Kaolin Clay is going to be really moisturizing and soothing in your bathtub. It makes your water nice and soft. And your Kaolin Clay, your cream of tartar is going to add to the hardness. So we're replacing 100% of that cornstarch with Kaolin Clay and cream of tartar. We're still continuing to add our milk powder. Today I'm going to be using the heavy cream powder, which is something that I have now started to use in my regular bath bomb recipe, and I love that. In the last video, we used just regular whole milk powder. Today, it's heavy cream powder. I already have the butter melted down, but in addition to the cocoa butter, we're going to be adding shea butter too. So now this is going to be cocoa butter and shea butter. I'm going to give you guys the recipe again. The percentage on this is staying the same. We're just splitting that percentage in half so we can use 2 different butters, okay? In this little vessel, I already have my Polysorbate 80, and I have my fragrance, which is going to be strawberry. So that's ready to go. In the last video, I told you guys about lakes and dyes and explained the difference between the two of them. And I told you that I always use lakes to make my bath bombs. A lot of people like using dyes. Today, we're going to do the demonstration on the dye. And as you can see here, I have already bloomed the dye in my binder. My binder is witch hazel and rubbing alcohol. So I already have that bloomed and ready to go. So let's put these off to the side. I'm going to show you the difference in a couple of different colorants here as well, because we're working with red today. So just like I did in the other video when I was explaining to you guys about the different blues, now we have different reds to work with, right? So this is red iron oxide. Really, really dark, really dark. I only use this for soap. Sometimes I use it in clay masks or foot scrubs, depending, and a very little goes a very long way with this. But again, this is an oxide. We don't want to use that in our bath products. Stinky, stinky like rotten eggs. Pu no bueno. Next, we have red number 40 lake, which is what I use all the time to get a beautiful red. And if I was smart, I would have had one of my bath bombs that's already made that I use this. Maybe I'll try to get that during intermission. Anyway, so this is red number 40 lake, which is what I use all the time in my bath bombs. This is red number 40 dye. This can be put right into your dry powders. You have to use a polysorbate with that. This needs to be bloomed. And you do not need a polysorbate with this. I always use a polysorbate regardless, whether I'm going to be doing a lake. And like I've already said, I don't usually do dyes. If I was going to do a dye, I would still use a polysorbate based on the fact that I'm adding an oil and or a butter to my formula, and that's going to be slick in the water. And so I don't want that forming a ring around the tub, nor do I want it floating on the top of the water, which is a really uncomfortable and icky experience for you, the end user, right? Okay, so here we go on those different colorants. Oxides, no bueno, don't use them in bath products. Lakes, really, really good, vibrant colors, last longer than a dye. No need to bloom, must use a polysorbate. Dye, teeny tiny amount, you guys, I'm telling you. I used a smidgen. I don't know if you guys can see that. I used a smidgen. And then I just mixed that in with my binder, which again is witch hazel and rubbing alcohol, which contains water. Okay, so very, very little amount. I've had this jar for 3 years now, and it's still really full because I hardly ever use dyes to begin with, but even when I do, very, very little bit. You don't need a lot. Okay, give me a moment, you guys, to get everything all set up. We'll be back and we'll start rolling. Okay, everything is ready to go here. I've got everything all set up, but let me give you guys the new and improved recipe. We're just building on it, okay? First recipe, base recipe. I'm going to link that up above in an info card. You guys can click on that and start there. That's our base, right? Then in part 2, we built upon that and we added our milk powder and we subbed out the oil for a butter. Now in today, part 3, we're splitting that butter in half to include a shea butter with our cocoa butter. And we are also eliminating cornstarch altogether, and we are replacing that with cream of tartar and kaolin clay. Now our new percentages on this bath bomb recipe are as follows. So we've got, hold on, let me just grab it so I can see better, my poor old lady eyes. All right, so our baking soda is 59.75%, cream of tartar 2%, kaolin clay 0.5%, cocoa butter 0.5%, shea butter 0.5%, polysorbate 80, 0.5%. Our scent, which is strawberry, and I've already checked on the manufacturer's website to see what the usage rate is, but I'm going to use 1.5%. Our binder, which is witch hazel and rubbing alcohol, 1%. Our heavy cream powder is at 0.5%, and our citric acid is at 33.25%. Just as an FYI, in parts 4 and 5, we're going to be building up to getting into my own personal recipe that I use to sell our bath bombs. They are our #1 selling product, and we've been doing this for 21 years. All right, you guys, let's get everything into the pool. We've got our baking soda. Let's get our Kaolin clay, cream of tartar, heavy cream. Let's give that a mix. All right, next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add that bloomed dye. So again, this is red number 40 dye, and I have bloomed that in my binder. So into the pool we go. Let's give that a mix. Get in there with your hands and start breaking those clumps up and getting that color mixed in. All right, that's mixed up pretty well. However, I'm not really satisfied with this color. So let me go and grab that colorant and we're gonna put some more in here. Hold please. Okay, I have gone ahead and bloomed a little bit more of the dye. We're just gonna add that right in here. Don't be concerned that I just added a whole bunch more liquid. A lot of creators have to add little spritzes here and there of their binder as they're going, depending on what their mix is doing. So this is no different. All right, let's get in here. All right, this is much better. All right, the color is much better. I'm happier with that. Okay, now that we have our binder and our color in here, next thing we're going to do is add our fragrance and our polysorbate, which is strawberry. Get that into the mix. Get every last drop. These ingredients are so expensive these days, you guys. Get every last drop that you can. All right, and as we continue to add a little bit more of these liquids, this is going to get a little darker. Get in here with your hands. After every liquid ingredient, you guys, get in here with your hands. Smush this stuff. Oh my God, the smell just wafted up. Yes, baby. Oh, this is strawberry supreme, and oh Lordy. Yes, please. Again, with dyes, less is more. Last thing you want to do is have somebody's skin coming out red after they've soaked in the tub. Or blue, or any other color for that matter. All right, we're good to go with this. And the last liquid ingredient and it's starting to solidify because I've been yakking for too long. This is our cocoa butter and our shea butter. Let's get that into the mix. Get in there with your hands. All right, that's good enough. Last thing we do is add our citric acid, right? Because we don't want that activating. We're not going to put that in before we add all of our liquids, and then have that start fizzing and doing its thing. Wow, the smell of this. Yeah, baby. All right, we are good to go. Let's do our test. It's holding together. Drop that sucker. Did it stay in place in its form? Sure did. All right, we are ready to go, you guys. On molding, we shall go. All right, again, we've already went over all the different molds that we've already done on the other parts of the video. Okay, let's get moving over here, shall we? Get a good angle for you guys. Okay, like I said, we're going to be working with the donut mold today, which is also a 3D printed bath bomb mold, and it consists of 2 cups and an outer shell. So we start by putting our outer shell down on the table and sticking one of the cups in the bottom. And we're going to start filling. Lightly sprinkle, you guys, lightly sprinkle. See how I'm doing? Lightly sprinkle. Give a shake, because there's cracks and crevices and nooks and crannies everywhere. We want all that bath bomb powder to fill up that entire space. Sprinkle, 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 and shake. We're going to build this up just a little bit, kind of like we did with the sphere, because we've got that little cup that needs to be filled, right? I mean, you don't want a mountain on the top, that's for sure. Just kind of level it out a little bit. But you want a little bit of a mound, a little bit. All right, so go ahead and take that top cup, turn it over, place it on the top. Give your presses, whether you do that in your hand or down on the table. Give your presses. I always press and turn just to ensure that everything is getting an even pack. Okay, that's good enough. I always get rid of my excess. Now, I take my little skewer, or whatever you guys have handy, and I get rid of that hole in the middle of that donut. I poke that out of there right away. Be gone. No bueno on you. We want our donuts to have a hole. Okay, now we're going to start tapping around the outside. That just loosens up any of the mix that may have gotten caught. And this mold, this comes off really, really easy. Stick that down on the table and just pull right up and off with that shell. I always give a little swipe on the inside to kind of clean it a little bit for the next molding. If you like a big Saturn ring, leave it alone. If you don't, give it another press. I don't like Saturn rings, just for packaging purposes. I think they look really nice, but I don't like to package them. It's a pain in my rear end. All right, then I usually take my skewer and go all the way around the outside like I'm doing now to just kind of clean off the rest of that Saturn ring that I don't want. We're going to give some taps on the top, turn it over, and give some taps on the bottom. This should come straight up and off with no problem. There you go. Grab your flip plate or your piece of cardboard or a coaster, whatever it is that you have handy. If you want to use your hand, you can do it. A lot of creators will just take this and turn it over on top of their surface that they're working with, or their tray that's lined with some freezer paper. However it is that you do it. I do it this way, okay? Put your flip plate on the top and turn that whole thing over, and we're just going to come straight up and off with that bottom cup. And there you have a beautiful round donut bath bomb. No muss, no fuss, came out beautifully. Okay, so we're gonna put this off to the side. Now, we're not gonna stop there though, you guys, because I have faith in you guys. You've come along for the journey thus far. You've watched part 1, you watched part 2. You kind of have the round stuff down, right? We just did a donut to show you how easy that is. So what if you wanted to make some other sizes? Now you've gone through part 1, part 2, you're feeling pretty confident. We just showed you how to do a donut, right? You're like, I can do that. That seems pretty easy. Why don't we try to do a medium-sized macaron? That's pretty easy. It's just round, right? Let's do that. Sprinkle some in here. Shake. This one you want to fill just right up to the top, even with the top. Take your top. You can tell on our molds anyways. I don't know about other people's molds, but the molds that we make and sell, there's one part of the top is rounded. The other part is just completely flat and cut right on off. That's the part that I use to put down. And then you just give your pushes again. Let's tap. Tap on the top. Turn it over and tap on the bottom. All right, turn it back over. I'm going to take that top cork, if you will, right on off of there. And you can see that that's been compressed down inside of the rest of the mold. Take your flip plate and turn it over. Just give a tap or two to release it. Should come straight up and off. So there's 1/2 of a macaron top or bottom, however you want to look at it. I could take this off of here and you can see what that looks like. So that was easy, right? Well, let's not stop there. Come on, I have faith in you guys. You can do this. What if we wanted to make a waffle? Now, this one, it might be a little bit more tricky. A little bit more tricky. It's got some designs, and the designs on this particular one that we make are on the top of the plunger, not on the bottom plate. Take that plain bottom plate, stick it down there on the bottom, cylinder on the top. Let's start filling this, shall we? My mix is starting to get a little bit hard right now. All right, that's about good enough for me because I don't want like a waffle that's going to be this thick. But once I compress this down, it'll be a decent thickness. So take that top plunger that's got that design, turn it over, give your presses. All right, let's do some taps around that shell to loosen up any of that powder that got stuck in there. Top plunger. Bottom plate. We're going to start unmolding by taking off that bottom plate. Straight up and off of there. Take your fingers underneath, your thumb on the top of the shell. Push up. Let's get him on out of there, shall we? Take your flip plate, stick it on the top, turn that over, straight up and off with that top plunger. And there's a beautiful waffle. Okay. So now we've made a donut, a macaron, and a waffle. We're not done yet though. Come on, you guys, you can do this. I have faith in you. We have 2 more shapes in the form of pucks, and we're going to demo those right now. Okay, let's just stick with our round shapes, okay? Because they're the easiest. Round, square, it doesn't matter. As long as it's like just a plain shape. Those are going to be the easiest when you're a beginner, okay? So we've got a round puck mold. This is one of our medium ones. Here's the bottom plate. Stick that on the bottom. Put your shell on the top. let's start filling that. Give it a shake. All right, let's take our top cup, turn that over, stick it on the top, and we're going to give our presses. All right, tap, tap, tap. Tap on the top. Turn it over, tap on the bottom. All right, we're going to start by taking that bottom plate right on off of there. Straight up and off. If you need to use your finger just to get in there, to give it a little bit of help right in the beginning, go ahead and do that. Straight up and off. Use your fingers underneath. Push straight up and out of there. Flip plate, turn it over, straight up and off with that bottom cup. And there's a beautiful round puck. Okay, let's put him back in there. And we've got one more to do because I know that you guys can do this. I have faith in you. Have faith in yourself. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. You shouldn't do it this way. You should only do it that way. These are my suggestions for you. Do what you want, whatever works for you. Let's do a square puck now. We've done a round puck. Let's do a square one. Okay, there's the bottom plate. Stick that down, put our shell on top of there. Let's start filling. All right, take our plunger, turn it over, stick it in there, give your pushes. All right, tap, tap, tap. Tap on the top. Turn it over, tap on the bottom. Straight up and off with that bottom plate. Let's push that other cup up and out of there, shall we? Wee-hee! Get out of there. Grab your flip plate, turn it over, straight up and off with that plunger. And there's a square tablet. Okay, you guys, I think that is going to do it for today. We are building, we are working, we are graduating, we're moving on up in life, right? Stay tuned for part 4, where we're going to start adding some bubblers to our formula. And then in part 5, we will have arrived at my own personal formula, and we're going to do some stuff there, okay? Hang out with me, you guys. This has been fun, don't you think? If you like it, 2 thumbs up, please. Comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell, okay? Till we meet again.